Hey, welcome back, guys. So my name's Anthony Chambers. I am a real estate agent here in California. On this channel, I just talk about most things that have to do with real estate. And today what we're going to talk about is, should you let the buyer move into your home early before close of escrow if you've just sold it? So let's go ahead and talk about this. So letting the buyer move in early. If you're looking up this question, it probably means you're pretty close to closing escrow. Great, congratulations. And sometimes the buyer is going to ask if they can move in early or get the keys early, so that way they can start moving their items in before there's been a recording at the county. So this is kind of a complicated question. Be sure to talk to your attorney or your real estate agent, and then they can help guide you for your specific situation. So I'm just going to talk about a few examples during my career when this situation has come up. Just a broad overview, generally what's going to happen is here in California, the buyer's not going to receive the keys. They don't have access to the keys to their new home until there's been a confirmation of recording at the county. Because once it's been confirmed at the county, then the home is no longer yours, the seller, it's now the buyer's. So with that comes the liability. And that's usually what you want to consider if you are thinking about letting the buyer move in early. To be very honest with you, I've had this question come up quite a few times with my clients, and most of the time I give them the different scenarios and then the different options. Most of the time the seller is going to opt out of this and let the buyer know that they're going to need to wait until there's been a confirmation of recording. And the reason for this is, once you've given the keys to the buyer and the house is still under your name, what if something happens? What if there is some sort of an injury or damage to the property and they have the keys but the house is still under your name? It kind of makes the liability for whatever the situation is, it turns it into a gray area. So to make things very clear and avoid any kind of issues, most sellers are going to deny this request. And the reason for this request usually is the buyer, they've already signed off their contingencies, so their loan safeties are gone, and they've already moved out of their apartment, or maybe they've already hired movers. Whatever the case may be, maybe their items are in limbo and then escrow has been delayed maybe 2 or 3 days. So to help avoid paying for a motel or for additional storage fees or additional mover fees, the buyer is going to contact their agent to say, hey, we don't have anywhere to go, we're basically homeless, can you ask the seller if we can move in early? And again, this is a very common request, and it's not an ideal situation for the buyer or for the seller, but it does come up. Another thing you want to consider is buyer cancellation. And again, this is probably not a common situation, but it is a possibility. So to kind of paint a picture, if the recording has not happened and the buyer has asked for the keys and you decide to give them the keys, once they go into the property, let's say that they find something about the house that they just don't like, or maybe they get buyer's remorse, or maybe their furniture doesn't fit exactly the way that they had expected it to. And then what that does is it opens the door for them to attempt to cancel out of that contract. Because again, nothing's been recorded at the county, so the house is still yours. It hasn't been transferred to the buyer yet. So if they move in, let's say 2 days or 3 days early, then they decide to cancel right before recording, then they might not be able to contractually, or they might be able to, depending on how the contract is written, what the reason for cancellation is. So again, you don't want to put yourself into a situation where you're almost done with the sale and then the buyer cancels for some reason, and then you have to start the process all over again. And the last thing I want to talk about is damage to the house. So when the buyers are moving in, whether it's by themselves or with movers, it's possible that something happens to the house itself. So maybe the truck hits the garage, or maybe they scratch the wall, or maybe some kind of shelf is broken. There's a lot of different things that can happen during a move. And because of this, if you wait until after it's been recorded at the county and then the buyer moves in, then there's no question about where the damage came from, who caused the damage. However, if you let the buyer move in early, and let's say they move in and then all of a sudden you get a call saying, hey, you know, somebody had hit the garage with a truck and it wasn't like that before, that's really an uncomfortable, strange situation to have to deal with. So to help avoid that, usually my clients are going to say, no, you're going to have to wait until after recording before you move into the house. So that's my personal experience with that question that comes up very often towards the end of escrow. What about you? Did you let the buyers move in early before close of escrow? If so, leave us a comment below. Let the rest of us know anything else that we might or should have to watch out for if that situation arises. And I hope you found the video useful. If so, click thumbs up, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching.